Now we'll talk about the appliance health check patches. So obviously health check has been something that's been part of Guardium for a very long time, but I did want to just do a refresher on it. A, for people that are maybe newer to Guardium, and B, because we actually added some new features to the health check over the last couple of years. So I'm going to go over just the basics, the new features, and then a kind of walkthrough of how to manage your health checks depending on whether they succeeded or failed, or if there's warnings and that kind of thing. So the health check, the basics is, so we have health check patches basically to confirm if an appliance is ready for the installation of the next bundle, GPU, or upgrade. And the purpose of these is basically to identify problems that's going to cause those patches to fail, or if there's going to be a critical problem after you install that patch, to identify that beforehand. It's a prerequisite of the bundles, GPUs, and upgrade patches, but not for security or sniffer patches. And the purpose of this is basically that we want to release a small, quick to install, quick to release patch, and that means that it's easy to quickly identify issues, and it's easy for us as a development team, a support team, to quickly respond to new issues. So in a matter of a short time after new things are discovered, we can release a new health check, and then if you install the latest health check, you should be protected against issues very up to almost current time. And for that reason, there's no set schedule, or really no predicted schedule. We just release new ones as new problems are found, as we go along. So the versions we have, the numbers we have for V10, V11, and V12. The P9997 is for the bundles and GPUs. The P9998 is for the upgrade. So, for example, V10 P9998 is a prerequisite for upgrade to V11. V11 P9998 is a prerequisite for upgrade to V12. So how we recommend that you use the health check in production is, firstly, I think an important thing that sometimes gets missed is that you want to plan a time before the upgrade or the bundle install or the GPU install to do the health check. What we see sometimes is that people are installing the health check patch for the first time in the same change window as the patch. And if a health check discovers a serious problem that's not necessarily trivial to resolve, then suddenly you're in scramble mode, right? You've got a short change window, you need to get something fixed, you need to, create several tickets and all that. And it's like, it's stressful for everyone. So what's a really good practice, and the bigger the upgrade you're doing, the better practice this is, especially, if you're upgrading from 10 or 11 to 12, for example, you really, really have to do this, is to install the health check early, in your process when you're planning the upgrade. That way you're going to find some, fundamental issues that may take longer to resolve early on, and you can address that when it's not a kind of fire drill situation. So you install the health check on the CM first, just the same as other patches. Or if you have standalone units, you install direct on the standalone unit. You can push it to MUs, same as other patches. And then you review the patch installation status on all the units. So the status is kind of the what tells you what's going on. So basically, if the patch succeeded, that means that all the checks passed, and you can install the next, your GPU or bundle or upgrade. If the health check patch failed, or there's a warning status, that's when you need to dig into it on each appliance and investigate and resolve the issues. And later we're going to go into how to do that. What I think is a good idea is to run it early, because that identifies fundamental issues that may take time to resolve. And then right before you do your patch, you run it again, because that will identify short-term issues that may be quicker, like, if your var got full or some table got corrupted, you want to check that right before you install. So that kind of double way I think is the right way to plan correctly and identify all your issues in a timely way. You have to have installed the health check within a week of the of the next patch installation. So if you install your health check today, and then you try or install your next bundle, a week and a half from today, then the bundle's going to fail because the health check is not current. And like I said before, that this is like the ideal recommended thing. And I think the bigger your change, the more important this is. So for example, if you're upgrading from 11 to 12, that's a big change. And doing this, I think, is going to save a lot of pain for people. If you are upgrading to the latest bundle of 11.5 and you already upgraded to the latest bundle, another latest bundle a week ago, and you installed a health check then, and you're installing another health check now, it's kind of less critical because the chances of big changes are lower. So these screenshots here are basically just a couple of ways you can check the status of the health check on MUs, either from the central management page, or you can check in the health check log distributed report. So now new features. So in the past, we're talking now a couple of years ago, and historically, basically the health check, there was just two outcomes. We had pass or fail. And if it passed, you could install anything, and if it failed, you could install nothing. So what we're doing now in the most recent health checks is we have two new kind of features here, and these have kind of been in the last 2 years, so they're probably not that new anymore, but compared to the historic way it worked, they're new. Basically two things. So warning status. So to go along with pass fail, we now have pass fail and warning. And then two, the ability to block specific patches. So we could have a warning and P500 would be blocked, but P480 would not be blocked, for example. So that basically gives us a lot more granularity to for the health check to kind of go to specific issues that are going to be blocking one patch but not other patches. So these two kind of go together. So I'm just going to go through both the warning status and the new and the specific patch blocking thing, kind of one after the other. So what you might see in the patch status that you didn't see historically is this warning review health check log file. So it might look like something like this in the CLI or from the CM. You have the warning. If you have a warning, it won't actually block the next patch install. So in the past, if you had an error and you tried to install another patch, that patch would just immediately fail because the health check was not installed. Now we don't block it with the warning status, and we'll see how that works on the next slide. But if you have a warning, the next steps is you basically want to investigate what that warning is and see if it applies to you. So you review the health check log. We're going to find the warning in there, and then review if that warning applies to you. If it does, you have to resolve it and then reinstall the health check. If it doesn't, then you can go ahead and install the next bundle or GPU anyway. And I'll go into more details on this in a later slide. So for example, you might see in the health check log something like this message: warning for v11.5 and above, Windows SDAT version is not compatible with Enterprise Load Balancer. So that warning is just for 11.5, as it mentions in the message. But if you're on 11.4 and you just want to install a bundle on 11.4, that doesn't apply. So that warning is not going to block you from installing that bundle. You can go ahead and do that anyway. And then, so again, that warning message links into this ability to block specific patches. And similar to that example, in almost all the cases, the warning status is specific for one patch only. So like I said, you might find an issue where P500 is going to fail, but other bundles or GPUs will not fail. And so what that links to is that in all the latest bundles, P400, 500, we actually check for those warnings in the bundle or GPU installation, and those bundles and GPUs that are blocked or have the warning status that applies to them are going to stop at the early stage if there's a check for that, or if there's a warning for that patch. So for example, if you're on 11.4 appliance, you install your health check, you see a message like you see there, error for P500. non-standard ISM partition tables. So you can see the error is only for P500, right? So if you want to install P500, you need to, resolve the issue, investigate it, resolve, and then reinstall the health check. But what you can do still, if you wanted to, even though you don't really, you shouldn't really, but just as an experiment, if you wanted to, you could still install P500. But if you do this, the P500 install is not going to proceed. It's going to end up with a status like you see there. So patch installation failed, check health check warning. So we can block specific bundles or GPUs based on specific warnings, and then have other bundles or GPUs not be blocked. So you can see in the CLI there, P500 was blocked and it failed with the error, patch installation failed, check health check warning. But then after that, I installed P470 and that was fine. So this is kind of the granularity we can get now in the health checks. Rather than block everything or install everything, we can now be granular about each patch and allow patches to be installed and not block them unnecessarily. But I've got some little diagrams. So the old way, the kind of historic way we did it was, like I said, we just basically had succeeded or failed. If you succeeded, everything was allowed. If you failed, nothing was allowed. Now we have succeeded and failed the same way, but also the warning. So if you have a warning status, it means some patches are allowed and other patches are not allowed. And depending on what you see in the health check log, you can determine whether your patch is allowed and you can proceed anyway. All right, so we move on. So that's kind of how it works now. So the question now is what to do if your health check is in failed or a warning state. If it's succeeded, then you've got nothing to worry about. You can just go ahead as normal. If it's failed or in warning state, this is kind of the steps to troubleshoot. So first thing is you want to get the health check log and the details. And there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Firstly, file server. So we can go to the opt-IBM Guardium log, path in file server into diag current, and then you can get the most recent health check file, which will correspond to the most recent installation. Another way, which is a lot easier, and I think maybe some people aren't aware, is that in the GUI, we have a health check log report that has all the same information. So you can see the details there. You right click on the report and then you can drill down into the details of each check, see whether it was an error or warning. You can also get from the CM GUI the high level status from a health check log distributed report. And starting in V12, what we added is a predefined distributed report that will bring the errors and warnings from all the managed units. So I'll show you that later in the demo, but you can see, you can basically just bring back all the errors and warnings, which is just the things that you actually need to look at in terms of troubleshooting. So this is what it looks like from file server. This is the GUI health check log, and then you right click on your installation, you get the details, and in the details you can see each check, whether it passed or failed, and the message. So that's step one. You just get the log, see what's going on there. Step two is you want to identify the message and the type of error based on the kind of prefix of the message. So if you see something with error, that basically means it's a general error, all patches are going to fail. That's stuff like your var is full, tables are corrupted, stuff like that. If it's an error for a specific patch, then we're talking about these new features that I just mentioned. The overall status is going to be warning, but there's going to be an error for a certain patch, and that patch is going to be blocked, where others will succeed. Then if we go down to warnings, there's some checks that show a general warning, so it's not going to block anything, but it's just something that you want to be aware of. So for example, for the version 11 to version 12 upgrade, I think we have a warning if the GIM certificates are still using SHA-1, a warning that once you go to V12 or before you go to V12, either way, you need to upgrade them or use SHA-2 certificates, for example. And then we can have warnings for specific patches. Again, it's not going to block the patch, but it's a note to say that, okay, if you're going to this patch, just be aware of a certain issue. You might want to take action after you install that patch. And then finally, if information, there's some things that we just are bringing up as information. They're not really that critical, but if you're reviewing the logs, it might be interesting to know. And then finally, if there's no prefix, it basically means the check is passed and there's no action required. So if you look at some examples there, you've got some success ones, some error ones. So that's step 2. So you got your health check log, you got your health check details, you identified your types of errors that you've got. And then the next step is now to check the health check release notes for the specific instructions of those checks. So when you download the health check, you have the release notes on Fix Central. That goes into a lot more detail on all of them. So maybe on some of those checks, you can see actually just from the message itself what you need to do. But in a lot of cases, that's not enough, and you need to check the release notes for what's going on. So everything that you see in the, so I'm going to the last slide here. So everything you see in the message there, those exact messages, word for word, are going to be in the release notes. So you can copy and paste what you have in the message. You can search for it in the release notes, and then you can read that check, what it means, what you can do, steps to resolve. Sometimes things that you can do on your own. Sometimes you might need to call in support to help. And so this is an example of some release notes and some checks there. And then the final thing is we have, in some cases, we have some linked tech notes on the release notes. So for example, if we have ad hoc patches that fix the issue, or information that's going to be updated more quickly than the health check release notes are updated, then we can sometimes link a tech note on there. So the basic idea for troubleshooting is as you go, we sort of have these different levels that have more and more detail, right? So you have the health check log, your health check details, release notes, and then the link tech notes. So the more you go to the right, the more information you should get, and the more likely you're able to resolve your issue or to know what to go to support to help you. So with all that information, you should be able to fix the issue that you see in the health check. After you resolve the issue, then you reinstall 9097, and then you check again. So hopefully on the second install, it should be successful, and then you can go ahead. If not, then you can go through the whole process again, double check what message you get. Is it the same one? Is it a different one? And go from there. Now, we always recommend to install the latest health check. And that's for the reasons I said before, right? Because we are constantly, or not constantly, but anytime we get an issue, we will re-release a health check to make sure it's up to date with all the known issues that we have. But sometimes you're not sure necessarily which health check you actually installed, whether it covered something or didn't cover something. So I just want to highlight here, you can check in the GUI. On the right, you have an installed patches report, and you can see in there the date of the health check. And that is what corresponds to the date that you see on Fix Central, so at the end of the patch name string. So in this case, you can see 9997. It's on December 7th, so that is the latest that was installed on that appliance. But the 9998 on the bottom of the report on the right is actually from January 26th, but on Fix Central there was one from January 30th. So that's how you can see that actually the one installed there is not the latest, and you might want to grab the latest from Fix Central. All right, so I've got a demo to show you some of these things in the GUI and a file server, how you can get some of this information. So I just wanted to show you quickly just some of the screenshots that I had. So for example, from your central management page, if you select your units, or you can select by groups and all that, you check the patch installation status. That's where you can see, this is kind of a good view, I think, to see all your managed units, whether the 9097 succeeded or failed. And then you can go to those units, specifically the ones that failed only or have a warning, to see what's going on there. So that's one thing. The other thing is that as a health check log distributed report, that's basically another way to get the same information. So this brings in basically that same data from all the managed units. You can retrieve your data from the units, and then it shows here. So where the CM one just showed the most recent install, the distributed report can show all the previous installs. So it sorts it by the source, which is the MU, and then the run ID, which is like the order of install. Oops. This distributed report, by the way, I made it in Distributed Report Builder. So you can come to Distributed Report Builder. You can find the health check log report here. Now, one distributed report that on V12 we have as a default is, or predefined, is this health check log errors and warnings, which I mentioned before. So if we search for health check log errors and warnings, what this does is just bring back from all the managed units just the errors and warnings. So if it's exceeded, you're not going to get anything. You're just going to get the errors and with the actual message. So this is kind of a good way to just see the specific messages on all the managed units from the CM in V12. Well, another thing to mention in V12 is that in V11, a lot of these health check reports are kind of predefined reports, and they're not necessarily editable easily. But in V12, both of these reports and domains are completely open and editable. So if you want to make your own custom versions of these things, you can do that in V12. So let's see, what else have we got here? So those are the kind of CM features. Another thing I wanted to show you was you can do this on any unit, but if we go to a local unit, this is an 11.4. So let's say you push down your health check or you installed your health check on a unit, or push it down from the CM, you saw that it failed. You can go to the health check log on that unit. You can see, okay, here's what we've got. We've got warnings, we've got errors in the health check log report, and you can right click on it, and then you go to health check log details, and then that's where you get your detailed information with all the checks, the warnings, the errors, and you can see there what, like I was saying with the troubleshooting, how to dig into it.